Hello, it's the 9th of September 2017. I believe I'm reenacting Martin Luther's Reformation that started just 500 years ago, and this is going to be a new Reformation, a new understanding of science that has been leading us. Science wants to tell us that has control, it has promises, it's going to bring us a better future. The Bible tells us a different story, and this will emphasize why our Bible is so valuable. We're always told to defend our position, and one of the issues is the age of the earth. Constantly people just have to say, oh, 6,000 years, really? And they're just left standing there trying to defend your position or defend your faith. With what this shows now, you'll have to, the humanists or the secularists or those that want to explain that everything's here by chance or life itself can develop, and we can claim that we've come from rock, from the Big Bang and all that. So stand by. It's not going to be a fast ride, but I'll do my best. How many of you remember this a couple of years ago? These were very popular. Just to read a little sales, a sand picture will do several times a day what Mother Earth takes millions of years to accomplish. That millions of years is what's known as uniformitarianism. And uniformitarianism is a basic principle of virtually all science. I have to tell you, and I hope you'll agree by the time you've seen this, that there's a lot to answer for. They have to defend their position. Just to give you the technical explanation, uniformitarianism, that the same natural laws and processes that operated in the universe now have always operated in the universe in the past and apply everywhere in the universe. Through an unprovable postulate, that's just somebody coming up with an imagination, that cannot be verified using the scientific method, that is actually seeing it happen and being repeated time and time again. Uniformitarianism has been a key first principle of virtually all fields of science. So that's whether to believe that you've descended from apes to even today's dilemma about global warming. Now, how do we see these postulates? One of the things that is we are told with some conviction from school onwards is the geological column. Now there's one that's slightly more cartoon, but it depicts the geological timescale. Let me read it. It is a system of chronological measurement that relates stratigraphy to time and is used by geologists, paleontologists and other earth scientists to describe the timing and relationships between events that have occurred throughout Earth's history. Evidence from radiometric dating indicates that the Earth is about 4.54 billion years old. The geology of deep time of Earth's past has been organised into various units according to events which took place in each period. Different spans of time on the geological timescale are usually delimited by the changes in composition of the strata which correspond to them. Now all that strata that you see with such clear cut-off and such accuracy, that's another way that it's depicted. time spiraling down, it's spiraling back up, and we come to all the, again, we've got what I'm reading off here. I can't pronounce it. Mississippi. I can do that one. Mississippian period, Cambrian, pre-Cambrian, and it spirals back up to today. Well, that's all very well as a drawing, but if you want something a little more realistic, that's the cross section of today's oil field, demonstrating how they drill for oil these days. It's called horizontal drilling. They don't have to just go down, they can go down and then horizontal. But there's our surface, all those layers, no fancy names, but that's take it or leave it, but that's how we get our oil today, and gas. Now that sand, these sand, they seem to have gone out of fashion now, but as you turn it over, it filters down, and as it filters down, it'll draw up these layers. But just so it's just a spontaneous event, nothing unusual, no tricks up the sleeve, as they say. If you've got things of different weight, once they're in motion, there's a sorting action. So if you shake a box of buttons, you want to sort out which one, the big ones will come to the top once you shake it. It's spontaneous, it's an every event. If you want to go gold prospecting, you can go and the sand and the gold is put in the pan and swirl it round in water. The heavier gold flakes come to the top, and they're very useful. But here we go. Just so if they're the heavy screws, you'll see they'll come to the top. I don't know if you can see there. I'll try and show the top ones there. And once I change it over, the small ones are on the bottom. It happens all the time. Now that isn't millions of years, much as that flyer advertising the sand art. What Mother Earth is supposed to take millions of years is millionths of a second. But that is what everything depends on, deep time, for this uniformitarianism. And uniformitarianism is depicted here. It's actually a throwback to Greek philosophy called Platonism. And the belief was that the volcanoes would produce the mountains. Those mountains of volcanic ash or lava would be weathered with wind and rain and all the elements, break it down and bring all that dust and dirt down to the seabed and supposedly build up those layers. Pristine layers, not contaminated, they're one distinct layers. Now, as distinct as that oil field, and as I can show with the, here we go, this is one of these sand art that actually have dried out, so it happens a bit quicker, but nevertheless there's two grades of sand. If I shake it that way, give it long enough, if you give it long enough, the heavy comes to the top and the light's underneath. But give it time to tumble down. And we get all this strata that's told takes millions of years and accounts for everything. When evolution is taught, as far-fetched as it is, Darwin had nobody challenged him. The people were delighted to have some reason to escape from there's ever been a creator, and there's anything supernatural, that everything has got a reasonable explanation. That's what the Greeks were doing. They wanted to get away from any feeling, because they lived almost in the days of Noah. They knew about the flood. They wanted to push that to one side. So they were delighted to. And now that once the dirt had washed down into the seabed, it was then Pluto, which was their god of the underground, pushed the mountains up. Today we're taught the same thing, but the mountains are getting pushed up, and it's a rapid uplift of mountains. You can go to any textbook, it's all about the cycle and how mountains are getting pushed up. There we go. They're getting either pushed up or crunched up. What the people forget, it seems, the flood talked about 40 days of rain, 40 days and nights of rain, and 150 days of fountains of the deep. Now, just for the logistics, so you can say fountains of the deep, why should it all of a sudden push up? A fact is, when you have an inch of rain falling, it weighs, over a square mile, it weighs 72,000 tonnes, 17.4 million gallons of water. 1 inch of rain over 1 square mile equals 17.4 million gallons. And we all know what a gallon of water weighs. Describing here, it's the weight of a train with 40 boxcars. I think that must be American boxcars. Well, whatever, 40, that's the weight. Now that weight on the ground is pushing down on the ground. When you hear in Liverpool, they measure the deflection of the shore as the tide comes in, and the weight of the water, it just deflects. We're told that the flood of Noah's day was 15 cubits. I believe that's about 21 feet. That's 21 feet above the highest ground of the day. If that highest ground was reasonably smooth like the moon, and we're not talking about Everest here, we're talking about a reasonably just flow of. Now, if 1 inch is 72,000 tonnes, call that 100,000 tonnes, round figures. A 12 inches, that was called that 10 to compensate. That's 1,200,000 tonnes. That's only 1 foot. Multiply that again by 20. I trust your mental arithmetic is better than mine. The weight of that water pressing down would, any water table, we're familiar with water tables today, pressing down would compress the water. Once it found a breach, then it can pump up into the sky. And where's that sketch? I've got some sketches here. Can you imagine, once that's pumped up into the sky, it takes up rocks, soil and everything, throws it up into the sky and comes down and dumps it without, no different to what we get here. And we get all these layers. This is how we get it. It dumps, it splatters across animals, smothers them instantaneously, cuts off oxygen, so they start decomposing, but not completely. They turn out to be fossils. That's where we get the fossils. We have water being pumped all over the place. Once all that water's there, you're going to have tidal, just as much as we have tidal now. it could pick up, and we end up with dinosaur graveyards. We have different. They try to make out the different, more sophisticated, the most primitive in these fossil records down at the Cambrian on the bottom. They're not primitive. They're as sophisticated as anything that's living today. So but everything depends on deep time. I hope that what I've said so far will get you thinking. You'll no doubt come back to me and say, what about the Ice Age? You've no idea. If you look into the origins of the Ice Age, it's postulates. Just people throwing a few ideas around. And you look it up. You'll have time now. The only other area that I find could be difficult is starlight. But Einstein had that all boxed off. You've got Einstein who's showed how time is distorted by distance. Even today, when they compensate for your GPS, they have to make allowances for the difference between Earth surface, sea level, and satellite level. If you have an atomic clock set at 5,000 feet, there's a difference between 5,000 feet and sea level, and it's measurable. I can't go any deeper than that, only to say somebody said, the earth, the Lord rolled out the heavens like a curtain. I could go on to where the elements come from. We've got cosmic rays, which brings in all the issues about radiometric dating. Cosmic rays are dealing with, nitrogen makes the carbon-14, carbon-12. All the elements, where they come from. The periodic table, if you want to go into all that, come back to me. But is that enough to be going on with? To challenge science, to say that we're not held to ransom by this deep time. These people have to defend their position, defend their faith in that we're here by pure chance. There's nothing supernatural, and we're inanswerable to nobody. Nobody's going to judge us. Our life, and once we die, that's the end of it. But there's an awful lot. If you choose to read the Bible, which is scientifically sound, it said at the beginning that the earth was a sphere hanging on nothing. How do they know these things? We don't understand nothing. Gravity? How did we know it if we thought the earth was flat? Never mind a sphere. Mind you, in Greek mythology, you saw Hercules carrying the world on his shoulders, and all he was interested in was keeping out the Lord of judgment. They knew what had happened in their lifetime. They knew if Noah could have been almost living in that. Well, no, that's a bit late. But they knew well that Noah, that was judgment. We're in the days of Noah now. All these tsunamis, all these earthquakes, it's something mentioned that these may be last days. Don't hesitate to look up and what you can and find out what you can. Do not be deceived by science, who want to control you by saying they have the authority, they can promise you the better future. All the things that can be done through scientific research. We can't tell the weather tomorrow. Never mind what's going to happen in 1,000 years, but nevertheless, we hang on every word, we listen to people's opinion. Napoleon had it right. He said people will believe anything as long as it's not in the Bible. The Bible is not a single error. If you can find an error, please tell me. I know plenty of people would be only too happy. But the future is in the Lord's hands, not politicians, people who want to manipulate history by manipulating us. Look out for these people who are that's a politically motivated. I could go on, but you can see I better stop. Thank you.